today. Musk now asking a federal tech check. It is getting spicy now, Steve.
Yeah, Carl, spicy to say the least, with Musk ramping up this lawsuit.
The View, once celebrated for its bold discussions and fearless takes on current events, was quickly engulfed in controversy after facing over 30 defamation lawsuits. What had been a dynamic platform for sharp opinions and heated debates collapsed under the weight of legal issues, financial setbacks, and intense public scrutiny. The show, once seen as a dominant force in daytime television, now teetered on the edge of disaster, struggling to maintain its once unshakable position in the media landscape.
Saying that I think Elon Musk believes he's president.
Over the top, it was like making everyone uncomfortable.
Really?
It was really over the top. You know, I mean, I think like sort of a passing joke of like, you know, a few passing jokes are fine, but they twisted the knife bit.
Whoopi Goldberg, a longtime pillar of Asterisk, The View Asterisk, had built a reputation on her outspoken nature. Known for her unfiltered thoughts, she often directed sharp criticisms towards some of the world's most influential and controversial figures, from Elon Musk to the Trump family. No one was off limits to her verbal fire, and she thrived on calling out the powerful. Goldberg assumed that her fame, credibility, and years in the industry would shield her from any serious consequences. Her brash commentary, though sometimes met with occasional outrage, had long been celebrated by viewers who appreciated her boldness. However, as time passed, Goldberg's remarks began crossing the fine line between opinion and defamation. At first, it was just a few murmurs of discontent, with public figures questioning the validity of her claims and pushing back against her accusations. Yet those murmurs soon turned into a flood of defamation lawsuits, one after another. The show found itself embroiled in a legal battle that felt impossible to escape. No amount of PR spin could quell the damage that was unfolding. As the lawsuits piled up, so did the consequences. Sponsors that once eagerly aligned with the show's fiery, no-holds-barred approach began pulling out. Advertisers grew increasingly wary of associating their brands with a program now synonymous with legal turmoil. The show's ratings, once high thanks to its unpredictable and controversial moments, began to plummet. Viewers became divided. Some saw Goldberg as a fearless truth-teller, unafraid to expose the hypocrisy of the powerful. Others believed she had crossed a line, using the platform irresponsibly to make reckless accusations without accountability. The rapid unraveling of Asterisk, The View Asterisk, was more dramatic than anyone could have foreseen. What had started as a show built on bold opinions and unfiltered debates quickly became a liability for its network. The backlash was relentless, and the network faced a difficult choice: stand by its host or attempt to salvage the remnants of the brand. Financial losses continued to mount, and reputations were on the line. In the end, the decision became clear. The era of Asterisk, The View Asterisk as it had once been known, was coming to a dramatic end. Goldberg, whose signature on-air persona had been defined by her willingness to call out the powerful, had inadvertently brought the show to its knees. Her boldness, once celebrated, had become the very force that led to the downfall of the iconic program.
Been saying that I think Elon Musk believes he's president. I do.
Well, you can call him vice president.
I've called him vice president. I called him president.
In a world where legal battles can make or break a career, even the most untouchable celebrities were not immune to the consequences of their actions. Whoopi Goldberg, a longtime star of Asterisk, The View Asterisk, was known for her sharp and often controversial opinions. Among her favorite targets was the Trump family, a name she rarely mentioned without delivering a scathing critique. Whether it was Donald Trump himself, his children, or his associates, Goldberg had plenty to say, and it was seldom flattering. She accused them of being embroiled in elaborate conspiracy theories, hinting at backdoor deals and shady political maneuvers that, in her view, were eroding democracy from within. But it wasn't just the Trump family that felt the wrath of Goldberg's commentary. In a move that left many scratching their heads, Goldberg set her sights on an unexpected target: country music star Carrie Underwood. Known for her soaring vocals and squeaky clean image, Underwood suddenly found herself dragged into Goldberg's tangled web of accusations. Goldberg suggested that Underwood was more than just a talented singer. She was allegedly part of some covert entertainment industry power play, operating behind the scenes to influence media narratives and public perception. The claim was so bizarre, so out of left field, that even Goldberg's most loyal supporters were left questioning her judgment. And then there was Joe Rogan. The polarizing podcast host had long been a lightning rod for debate, with millions of devoted listeners tuning in to hear his often controversial guests and opinions. But Goldberg saw him as a dangerous force, someone recklessly spreading misinformation under the guise of open discussion. She lambasted Rogan, accusing his show of being irresponsible and harmful. In her view, Rogan was giving a platform to voices that had no business being heard, turning his podcast into a breeding ground for deception, where half-truths and outright falsehoods were allowed to flourish unchecked. In the early days, it seemed as though Goldberg could get away with anything. She had spent decades in the entertainment industry, earning her place as a celebrated actress, comedian, and television powerhouse. Her bold opinions and fiery rhetoric kept her in the spotlight, and in her world, controversy wasn't something to fear. It was a tool, a weapon that kept her relevant. She likely believed that her celebrity status provided an invisible shield, protecting her from the consequences that could crush the average person. A tweet from an unknown figure could spark backlash and ruin careers, but Whoopi, she thought, was untouchable. Sitting at the helm of one of the most watched talk shows on television, surrounded by a network that had stood by her for years, Goldberg felt she had power and influence. She had the unwavering belief that she could say whatever she wanted, whenever she wanted, without facing any real consequences. But that was before the legal battles, financial setbacks, and public backlash started to mount.
Apparently, his wife has different thoughts on the reproductive rights after posting this video plugging her.
The tides were shifting. The entertainment world was evolving, and the very immunity Whoopi Goldberg had relied on for so long was beginning to erode. Her critics, once relegated to shouting into the void, were now taking action. Lawsuits were piling up, networks were growing uneasy, and advertisers were reconsidering their partnerships. The warning signs were undeniable, yet whether Goldberg saw them or simply chose to ignore them was another matter entirely. Whoopi had gravely miscalculated the power and resources of the people she was targeting. Known for her fearless, no-holds-barred approach, she had built a reputation for speaking without a filter, firing off accusations without hesitation. But this time, she wasn't just stirring up controversy for ratings. She was stepping into dangerous territory. Her claims were not merely exaggerated, they were often completely unverified. She wasn't just being provocative, she was being reckless. In an era of instant fact-checking and legal accountability, that was a gamble she couldn't afford to take. For years, Goldberg had relied on her celebrity status to shield her from consequences. She spoke as if she were untouchable, believing her legacy, industry connections, and the unwavering loyalty of her audience would protect her from any fallout. But the reality was far harsher than she had anticipated. Once the floodgates of legal action opened, that illusion was shattered. Over 30 defamation lawsuits came crashing down on her, each one a stark reminder that her words carried far more weight than she had ever considered. The individuals she had targeted weren't just celebrities with fragile egos. They were powerful people with vast financial resources, elite legal teams, and the patience to see a courtroom battle through to the end. Elon Musk, a billionaire with a reputation for never backing down from public disputes, was one of the first to take action. Goldberg had taken repeated jabs at him, portraying him as an out-of-touch billionaire whose business ventures were mere vanity projects. She accused him of selfishness and arrogance, even hinting at more sinister motives behind his technological ambitions. While such comments might have been dismissed as casual banter in the world of television, Musk saw things differently, and he wasn't alone. Carrie Underwood, shockingly pulled into Goldberg's conspiracy-laden rhetoric, wasn't about to let wild accusations tarnish her spotless reputation. Joe Rogan, no stranger to controversy himself, wasn't going to idly stand by while someone attempted to frame his platform as a dangerous force. And then there was the Trump family, arguably one of the most legally aggressive and media-savvy families in modern history. When Goldberg repeatedly targeted them with narratives that could be easily dismantled in court, it was only a matter of time before they hit back. The lawsuits began pouring in, one after another, and suddenly the dynamic had shifted. Whoopi wasn't just a TV personality making bold statements. She was a defendant in a legal battle that threatened to dismantle everything she had built. The network that had once been her greatest ally was now forced to reconsider the cost of standing by her. What had once seemed like a fearless approach to speaking truth to power had now become a series of reckless, unsubstantiated accusations that could bring down a television giant. Goldberg, who had long believed herself untouchable, was now at the mercy of the very forces she had so confidently taken on. The stakes had never been higher, and the consequences more dire.
You know who? Stay away from the stairways. Because, people put the leg out to trip you going down the stairs.
As the controversy around Whoopi Goldberg grew, advertisers began distancing themselves from the show, and even some of her longtime supporters started questioning whether she had finally gone too far. What had once seemed like an unstoppable force in media was now spiraling out of control. Provoking debate was one thing, but making claims that could hold up in a court of law was another. With high-profile figures like Elon Musk and the Trump family ready to fight back, Goldberg found herself in a position she had never expected, on the defensive, facing consequences she believed would never reach her. Elon Musk, a billionaire with the power to shape industries, was not about to let Goldberg tarnish his name without a fight. After Goldberg unleashed a series of accusations, branding him as selfish, out of touch, and hinting at more sinister motives behind his ventures, Musk decided he had enough. Rather than simply responding with a few words on social media, he launched a legal onslaught so swift and overwhelming that Goldberg barely had time to process it. His legal team, backed by the vast resources of a multi-billionaire, dissected every word Goldberg had uttered, every reckless claim she made. What started as a battle for reputation soon escalated into a war, and Musk was determined to make sure Goldberg felt every blow. Before Goldberg could even catch her breath, the Trump family struck back. For years, she had hurled accusations at them, portraying them as the masterminds of conspiracy and corruption. But what she hadn't anticipated was that the Trumps didn't just respond, they went for total destruction. Donald Trump, a man known for never backing down, had watched her attacks from the sidelines long enough. He wasn't about to let her words fade into the background. He wanted her to pay. The legal battles, once seemingly distant, were now at her doorstep, and Goldberg was about to face the full weight of the powerful figures she had targeted.
If I believe I have the right to make up my mind to go perform someplace, I believe they have the same right.
Of course.
And so I have to, I have to.
Whoopi Goldberg had long believed that her reputation and celebrity status gave her the power to speak freely, without consequences. She had built a career on bold statements, calling out those she saw as deserving of scrutiny. But as the legal battles began to mount, reality quickly began to hit. The tide was turning, and no amount of fame, PR, or fan support could shield her from the overwhelming backlash. When Goldberg's words targeted the Trump family, they responded with a bombshell defamation lawsuit, one designed not only to silence a critic, but to make an example out of her. This was more than a legal move, it was a display of power. The Trump family wanted to show that no matter how famous Whoopi was, no matter how long she had been in Hollywood, she wasn't untouchable. She had stepped into a battlefield with giants, and now they were closing in, prepared to bury her under a mountain of legal action. No network, no PR team, and no fan base could protect her from the storm that was now brewing. But just when it seemed like the worst was over, an even bigger shock came: Carrie Underwood. No one had predicted this. Underwood, a country music star known for her grace, talent, and picture-perfect image, wasn't the type to engage in public feuds. She was a sweetheart of America, a woman whose reputation was built on nothing but hard work and raw talent. And yet, when Whoopi Goldberg made the bold claim that Underwood was secretly pulling the strings behind the scenes of the entertainment industry, manipulating award shows, controlling artists' careers, and influencing the business for her own gain, Underwood did something that left Hollywood reeling. Underwood fought back. In a stunning move, her legal team filed their own defamation lawsuit against Goldberg, branding her accusations as outrageous, slanderous, and designed to tear down an artist who had spent years cultivating a reputation built on nothing but integrity and skill. Underwood wasn't going to let her name be tainted by baseless gossip and conspiracy theories. This wasn't just about protecting her public image, it was about her career, her legacy, and the hard-earned reputation she had built over the years. The accusations, though absurd to many, had the potential to plant seeds of doubt in the industry, casting a long shadow over her success. Underwood wasn't willing to let that happen. Her legal battle demanded millions in damages, but it was more than just a lawsuit, it was a declaration. Underwood made it crystal clear that no matter how famous someone was, they couldn't smear her name without facing the consequences. The legal battle wasn't just about money. It was a stand for her reputation, her integrity, and her hard work. The entertainment industry was about to see that Underwood was not someone to be pushed around, and just when the dust was settling from Underwood's bold legal move, a new firestorm erupted, this time between Whoopi Goldberg and Joe Rogan. Rogan, a polarizing figure in his own right, had been on the receiving end of Goldberg's criticism for some time, but now it was time for him to strike back. Their clash would set Hollywood ablaze, with both sides digging in for a fierce, high-profile legal battle that would push the stakes higher than ever before. Goldberg, once the powerful voice that seemed untouchable, now found herself caught in a whirlwind of legal challenges, each one threatening to tear down the very foundation of her career. Her voice, which had once been her greatest asset, had now become the tool that would bring about her downfall. The walls were closing in, and there was no escape. No apology, no PR stunt could undo the damage that had already been done. Goldberg's reckless words had finally caught up with her, and the consequences were more than she had ever anticipated.
If I believe I have the right to make up my mind to go perform someplace, I believe they have the same right.
Of course.
And so I have to.
The saga surrounding Asterisk, the View Asterisk, had already descended into chaos, but a showdown that erupted over a seemingly minor incident took things to a new level. What began as an isolated dispute over a Staten Island bakery quickly spiraled into a nationwide controversy, further exposing Whoopi Goldberg's habit of making inflammatory claims without verifying the facts. Goldberg had publicly accused the family-owned bakery of discrimination, alleging that they refused to take her order simply because of her political beliefs. She framed the incident as another example of intolerance, using her influential platform to call out what she perceived as an act of political bias. Her words carried weight, and within hours, the bakery found itself under fire. Angry social media mobs launched attacks, calling for boycotts and accusing the owners of discrimination. But the problem was, Goldberg's accusations were completely unfounded. The bakery, a beloved establishment that had served its community for generations, pushed back immediately, stating that there was no political motive behind their decision. The real reason they couldn't take the order was a boiler malfunction, which had caused a temporary issue that prevented them from fulfilling large orders. There was no grand conspiracy, no hidden political agenda, just an unfortunate technical issue that had nothing to do with Goldberg's allegations. However, by the time the bakery had a chance to explain, the damage had already been done. Goldberg's claim had set off a firestorm, and the bakery's reputation, painstakingly built over decades, was now hanging by a thread. Social media outrage, fueled by Goldberg's unverified statement, had turned a minor issue into a full-blown crisis for the small business. It became painfully clear that Goldberg's words, while reckless, were powerful enough to destroy lives and livelihoods with no accountability for the harm they caused. And that's when Joe Rogan entered the fray. Rogan, never one to back down from a heated debate, took it upon himself to set the record straight. He dedicated an entire segment of his popular podcast to the situation, thoroughly dismantling Goldberg's allegations and exposing just how dangerous her unchecked words had become. Rogan didn't just defend the bakery, he used the incident to highlight a broader issue about the power wielded by mainstream media figures like Goldberg. He called out her reckless behavior, branding it as yet another example of how celebrities and media personalities were able to shape narratives without facing real consequences. He pointed out how these figures, backed by massive followings, could push false or misleading claims with no accountability, and how this lack of scrutiny posed a serious problem for the public trust. Rogan wasn't simply reacting to a single incident, he was making a statement about the larger culture of unchecked influence in the media. He argued that Goldberg, like other prominent figures, had become so accustomed to using her platform to push controversial narratives that she had forgotten the weight of her words. This wasn't just about one bakery. It was about the dangerous precedent set by those with power in the media to spread harmful misinformation without facing any real repercussions. As the situation continued to escalate, Goldberg found herself not just facing public backlash, but also confronting growing legal battles, industry pushback, and a rising tide of powerful figures calling her out in ways she'd never experienced before. The walls were closing in, and the stakes were higher than ever. What had started as a simple talk show controversy had evolved into something far more dangerous, a storm that had the potential to bring her entire career crashing down. Meanwhile, the bakery, a proud family-owned establishment that had served its community for over 150 years, wasn't about to let Goldberg's false accusations go unanswered. In a tense, high-stakes press conference, the owner stood before a swarm of reporters and cameras, their voices unwavering as they set the record straight. "This is not what happened at all," they declared. "We have never and will never discriminate against anyone, regardless of anything. Our business has been built on integrity, and we will not allow these false accusations to tarnish what we've spent generations creating." While the damage had already been done, the bakery wasn't just fighting for their reputation, they were fighting for their survival. They were determined not to let their livelihood be destroyed by an unfounded claim made by a celebrity who had forgotten the power of her platform. In the midst of this chaos, as if things couldn't get any more explosive, Joe Rogan doubled down on his stance, offering a biting critique of Goldberg's actions and further solidifying his position as a voice of resistance against media figures who used their influence irresponsibly.